The 1313 Mockingbird Lane Vintage Halloween playlist crawl continues. Welcome to Up All Night DIY. I'm Monica. Thanks for joining me. This is a flashback to a project I made a couple of years ago. This piece is actually double-sided, but we're just going to focus on the Halloween side. Dandy, the Pumpkinman. Let's get into it. We're starting off in my dungeon workshop, where I'm going to cut out my project using my scroll saw. His body is going to be MDF, and his sneakers are made from wood. So, as I mentioned, one side is Halloween, and the other is Christmas. That's why you see two sets of sneakers there. Together, they're going to make up his stand. See, just like this. I have to say, this is one of my favorite projects ever. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to paint the edges with Ceramcoat charcoal. I cut the shape of his hands from cardstock so that they're consistent on both sides, and this way I'll have them should I ever want to make another. So I'm just going to trace his arms on to get us going. And I'm also going to draw in, the line to his head and where his pants and shirt meet. I'm going to give his head and his hands 2 coats of Ceramcoat Bittersweet Orange. And I give his pants 2 coats of Ceramcoat Hippo Gray. So here I taped off his hands so I can dab on my check stencil without getting any paint on them. And I'm going to use Rain Gray to apply the check stencil, and I'm just pouncing it on with a cosmetic sponge. And nowadays, I wouldn't bother to tape out his hands. I would just use the cardstock to mask them. But anyway, 2 coats of white for his shirt. I paint the top part of his sneakers with Ceramcoat charcoal, and I'll do the soles with 2 coats of white. I love to give my characters sneakers. Cracks me up. And now I'm going to draw on his features. Again, I'm using cardstock here to do his mouth. Like I said, I like to cut out tracers in case I ever want to make another. Now his eyes and his nose will also be charcoal, and I'll paint the inside of his mouth white. The inside of his eyes will get white swirls, because that's how I roll. I like a little swirly thing going on somewhere. And a couple of quick dashes as laces for his sneakers. I'll use Folk Art Floating Medium and Ceramcoat Amber Glow to add some shading. I'll prep my brush with the medium, side load with Amber Glow, stroke the brush on my plate to blend the medium with the paint. This will create a gradient of color, darkest at the corner of my brush, and fading as it moves toward the middle of the bristles, giving me that fade. So I place the paint corner of my brush where I want the darkest shadow, so in this case where the grooves of the ribs of the pumpkin are, and I'm giving all of these strokes a little bit of a curve. So we're going to go around the edge of his face and around his nose, his eyes, and mouth. I'm going to go around the outside portion of his head, right there along the edge, and then I'm going to come in and do his hands too. Now I follow up the Amber Glow shading with Hippo Gray shading. I like to build my color, you feel me? So, I hit all the same areas painting next to, not really on top of the amber, it's more to enhance the shading. I use my liner brush and Hippo Gray to paint in his teeth marks, the little lines there, and I'm going to give him some eyebrows too. And I used Hippo to outline his mouth too. I float some shading on his teeth to give that vintage vibe, particularly up in the corners, just kind of anywhere where I think a little shadow might help. And let's give him some character lines to add some lift. I shade his shirt with Drizzle Gray, and I'm also going to shade the soles of his sneakers too. So I think you can see the shading kind of almost serves as an outline. So as I shade the soles of his sneakers, I'm also going to float in that separation between the two shoes. See? I use charcoal to shade his pants, adding shadow around his hands. And I'm also going to add the suggestion of legs by painting a line down the center of his pants, to separate those legs out. Let's give his sleeves some stripes for visual interest. I'm alternating Americana Spice Pumpkin, then charcoal, then rain, curving my strokes to follow the shape of his arm. I add random dots to the checks on his pants, just for kicks. And I dot charcoal buttons onto his shirt, then a smaller dot with Spice Pumpkin, and an even smaller dot of rain gray to pull all those colors together. I'm building on my shading with Hippo. Add a wee bit of drama. I really like the effect, especially for a Halloween piece, that this gives, adding that darkness. I'm sure you know that adding all the detail is my favorite part of painting. His sneakers get floated with black, and that's another reason why I'll use charcoal instead of black as my base coat, so that I can add black as a shadow. You feel me? Because you can't get darker than black. Right, so if you were wondering why his forehead is so big and his features are so low on his face, it's because we're making him a cute wee hat, which will take up most of his noggin. So it'll be like a paper boat hat. So I fold my paper in half and I fold it in half again, which is really just to mark my center point. I'll open up the last fold. I want the fold at the bottom and the open edge at the top. I'll take the bottom corner and fold it up like this, making a triangle, like a paper plane fold. I fold the other side, meeting them in the middle. And I fold up the bottom to align with the flaps, then I flip it over and flip up the other side to match. I'm going to glue the flaps into place. I'm going to embellish the brim with this corrugated cardboard trim, matching up the scallops front and back. Now that that's done, I'll float the edge of the hat with Spice Pumpkin, and I'll brush the trim with some too, again just to pull that color in. I'm using some of my Crepe Paper festooning I'll create a doodad for his hat. I'll do this by gluing it to a cardstock circle. So I'm going to use Fabic Glue, but hot glue would work too. I'm going to add a swirl of glue to the center of the circle, pushing one end of the garland into it. And I'll add more glue in a swirl pattern, coiling the garland, around it until the circle is full. I clip off any excess and I glue the end. Now let's add a button to the center. Then I'm going to glue on this 31 to the button. I created the 31 in Photoshop and printed it on cardstock. And with a little hot glue, we'll attach it to his hat. The hat slides on, hiding all that extra forehead. See? There's a method to my madness. Okay, he needs a bow tie. So I'm going to layer these lengths of crepe paper, pinch them in the middle, and twist them together with a pipe cleaner. I bring the excess pipe cleaner to the front, and I'm going to curl it around a paintbrush handle for a little extra flair. Know what I'm saying? I cut slits into the bow tie to fringe it, and I'm going to shake it about a wee bit to fluff it up. I'll glue on this 31 Big O chip to the center of the bow tie, and I'll glue the tie into place. All we need to do now is glue on his sneakers with some wood glue and a wee bit of hot glue, and I'll spray him with the clear matte sealer. And here's our man Dandy. He's ready for the Halloween party. I love this guy. I might have to make another one. I donated this one to a charity silent auction. Let me know what you think. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. And please stay tuned. The 1313 Mockingbird Lane Vintage Halloween Playlist Crawl continues with Dawn of Shabby Meets Bling. Stay creative, my friends. Thanks for hanging with me. See you next time. Up all night with Monica.